Part 1. Setup and Tools. The welding table must be made from conductive metal or the welder will not work. Fume extraction must be running whenever you are welding. Parts and Tools Overview. This is the single wire feeder tube. This is the power cable for the laser machine. This is the gas line for the shielding gas. This is the grounding clamp, which must be connected whenever you are welding. These are various nozzles for the laser gun. This is the adjustable focus. And these are the nozzles feeder wire. These are tools for adjustment and setup. And this is the required PPE. Part 2. Machine Setup. Connect the power cable to the laser machine in the terminal on the right. These ridges slot into the keyway in the socket. Find the power cable for the feeder wire on the feeder mechanism. Connect it to the terminal on the left. Once again, these ridges line up with the keyway. Connect the ground clamp. Undo this cap, slide the terminal over the screw, and then replace the cap. The ground connection must be tight. Attach the clamp to the metal welding table before welding. Turn on the power switch located between the two power cables. Note, for safety, the ground clamp should be attached to the machine when not in use. Test the airflow direction of the fan. It should be running without significant noise or vibration. Check that the LCD screen is functioning. Note how the red fault light in the lower right is on and the green gas indicator is off. We can extrapolate that the shielding gas has not yet been connected. Test the screen and make sure all of the touch screen is functioning. Connect the shielding gas line. Use an adapter to connect the gas bottle if needed. There are two gauges. The left one is the flow velocity, the right one is the pressure. Initially, we will set the flow velocity and pressure to the minimum requirement. Block the end of the air line and set the pressure to 0.7 MPa. The flow must be adjusted slowly until the alarm turns off. This means it has reached the minimum requirement. The gas alarm only lights up when the pressure or flow velocity is too low, not when it is too high. Slowly, increase the flow velocity while watching the LCD screen. When the red fault alarm turns off, the flow velocity is at its minimum requirement. Increase the flow velocity slightly to ensure it is over the minimum. Test the wire feeding mechanism. Press wire feeder parameters on the main screen. Enable the wire feeding mechanism. Note that it must be disabled if you want to adjust the settings. Press and hold manual wire feed. Begin feeding. Observe the feeder mechanism. The wheels should be smoothly rotating anti-clockwise at a constant velocity and at the same velocity as each other. Unhook the laser gun. Tilt the gun forward, move it up, and slide it out of the holder. Take care not to twist or kink the cable when unhooking it. It contains fiber optics, which are very delicate. Test the lens. Remove the bung first. Point it at the ground 1 meter from the surface. There is a red LED indicator. This light should be perfectly spherical, not elliptic, and have no dark spots that would indicate the presence of dust or debris. Part 3. Setting the focus. Loosen the end nut and insert the adjustable head. Observe the gratical lines on the side of the head. These assist with setting the focus. Locate the focusing nozzle. It is the one with the 2 forks. Screw it into the adjustable head as far as it will go. Ensure that the gun, the adjustable head, and the focusing nozzle are all in line. Check that the forks of the focusing nozzle are perpendicular and can sit flush against the welding table. Disable the laser enable button. Set the power to 15% and the wobble amplitude to 2 millimeters. These are the settings we will use when setting the focus. Press Set to confirm these settings.
Set.
Now, re-enable the laser. In the Wire Feeder Parameters menu, disable the feeder mechanism. Always use laser protective glasses. Attach the ground clamp before welding. Adjust the focus by sliding the adjustable head in and out. The lens will focus the laser at a specific point. The tip of the nozzle must be positioned exactly at this focus distance. A good testing range is between -3 and +3, as viewed in the gratical lines on the side of the adjustable head. Press the trigger and observe the laser output. The correct focus point is where the laser is at its brightest and sparks are visible. The correct distance must have visible sparks, even if another distance is brighter and no sparks are present. Once the distance is set, lock it into place by tightening the end nut. Part 4. The feeder wheels. There are 8 types of feeder wheel and 2 attachment screws. The number corresponds to the thickness of the channel on the opposite side of the feeder wheel. This channel is where the wire sits, and users should always check and confirm that it is the correct size. If there is a U in the serial number, the wheel is for aluminium. V is for every other type of material. For this application, we will be using 1.2 mm aluminium wire to weld 2 mm aluminium plates. We will need the corresponding feeder wheels as shown. Now, attach the spool mechanism. Undo this cap. This collar pictured is for a different size spool and must be replaced. Locate and slide on the new collar that attaches the spool to the mounting plate. The circular slot on the collar slides into the pin on the mounting plate. The circular pin on the other side of the collar slides into the circular slot on the spool. Two motors turn clockwise. The spool must be mounted so that the wire can feed in this direction. Mount the spool as shown in the demonstration. As discussed, the slot on the spool slides into the corresponding pin on the collar. Finally, reattach the cap. There is a keyway shown on the feeder wheel which slots into a corresponding ridge on the feeder mechanism. The channel is where the wire will sit. Make sure that this channel matches the selected wire size, or the mechanism will not be able to close and may jam as it feeds. Attach the screws to lock the feeder wheels in place. We can now begin feeding the wire from the new spool through the mechanism. Hold the wire tightly, prevent loss of tension, and snip the bent end of the wire. While maintaining tension, feed the wire through the feeder tube and through both feeder wheels out of the end of the mechanism. The wire should sit in the channel of both feeder wheels. Now, close the guide bearings over the feeder wire and lock them in place by raising the red knobs. Use these knobs to adjust the compression on each of the wheels. For this wire size, we will be using setting 4. Both knobs should have the same setting. Now, attach the feeder wire tube. Remove the nut on the end. Loosen this screw at the end of the feeder mechanism. Slot the threaded insert over the wire and into the feeder mechanism. Then retighten the fixing screw to lock it into place. it should be solidly attached. The tube must be straightened and unraveled before a new wire can be fed. One person should hold the tube and point it away from anybody else. Another person should manually feed the wire by entering the wire feeder parameters menu and then holding the manual feed button. Observe the feeder mechanism to make sure the wheels are turning smoothly without any slippage. To mount the feeder wire, start by removing the mounting bracket from the laser gun. This is the assembly for the wire feeder end. Remove both nuts on the end and one of the two washers, but leave the other nut and the washer for now. Tighten the other nut as far as it will go and lock it with a spanner. Slide the wire feeder mounting bracket onto the end of the nut you just tightened and reattach the washer and nut. Slide the wire feeder head over the wire into the end of the mechanism and secure it with the end nut. Find the correct size nozzle, slide it over the wire and attach it to the wire feeder head. This completes the wire feeder end assembly. Attach the new laser nozzle. Take care not to change the focus when inserting it. The nut which tightens the adjustable head should be kept tight during this process. Remove the focusing laser head. And screw in the new nozzle. Note that there is a channel on the underside of this nozzle. The wire will feed through this channel during welding, and it must be in line with the bottom of the laser welder gun. The angle of this channel can be adjusted by loosening the nut that holds the adjustable head and rotating the head, but be careful not to change the focal distance when doing this. Attach the wire feeder end assembly using the mounting bracket. Do not tighten it yet. We need to keep it loose for adjustment. Note how the wire sits in the slot underneath the laser nozzle. The nozzles of both the laser gun and the feeder wire must touch to complete the circuit, after which we can begin welding. Once you are satisfied with the position and orientation, hold both nozzles and tighten the mounting bracket screw to lock it in that position. Tighten both the end nuts using the spin. Part 5. It is now time to test the welder. Set the power to 35%, the wobble amplitude to 2.5 millimeters, and press set to apply. These can be considered default parameters. Disable the wire feeder so that the parameters can be adjusted. Set the speed to 70 centimeters per minute, and then re-enable the feeder. Connect the ground clamp before beginning welding. Hold the gun at a 45-degree angle with the wire touching the material surface. Press the trigger button to begin welding. This type of welder is different to normal MIG or TIG. The welding speed is controlled by the force of the wire as it exits the feeder mechanism, not the user. Observe the penetration and the quality